The hum of the airport fades as Amara's name lingers on Clara's tongue, slow, hesitant, like she's unsure if it deserves to be said. Lewis, right? Her tone carries that soft edge of disbelief, the kind that pretends politeness while hiding prejudice. Amara nods once, steady, eyes locked ahead. Behind the counter, Clara's fingers hover above the keyboard. The system's screen glows back at her. Amara Lewis, business class. She clears her throat. "Ma'am, I think there's been a mistake." Amara's reply is quiet, measured. There isn't. A brief pause stretches too long. Passengers shift behind her. One sighs, another looks away. It's not the noise that hurts. It's the silence of agreement. Clara forces a smile. Of course. Policy check. Just a minute. But her eyes say something else. Doubt, discomfort, disbelief that someone like Amara belongs here. The narration slips in like breath. It's always in the pauses. The way their courtesy bends under your presence, then straightens when you step aside. The printer spits out the ticket slowly, painfully. Clara slides it forward without meeting her eyes. "You're all set," she mutters. Amara takes it gently. "Thank you." Their hands almost touch. Almost. But Clara withdraws first, as if contact might stain her. The silence hums again. Not explosive, not loud, just heavy. As Amara walks away, her reflection stretches across the polished floor. One woman carrying the weight of a name that still doesn't sound like it belongs in first class. The scanner flashes red. Once, then again. The soft beep slices through the morning calm. Clara's lips tighten. "I'm sorry, ma'am. It seems your ticket isn't valid for this section." Amara's brows lift slightly. "It's business class. Gate 14 confirmed." Her tone is calm, almost too calm. Clara glances at the queue, people shifting, whispering. "I understand, but sometimes the system mislabels." She stops, catches herself, and forces a polite tone. "Could you please step aside for a moment?" Amara looks her in the eye. "You mean out of line?" Clara's composure flickers. "Just procedure." The narration hums quietly. Procedure. The word they use when they mean distance, when they need time to remember how they're supposed to treat you. Amara steps aside, clutching her boarding pass. The man behind her avoids her eyes. The woman after him glances, then looks away. Not out of hate, but habit. Silence fills the space like fog. Clara picks up the phone. "Yes, passenger verification. Name? Amara Lewis." A pause. Her eyes narrow. "Oh, I see." She hangs up slowly. "You're cleared." Her voice trembles slightly now, but she doesn't apologize. Amara takes the pass. "Thank you." Clara nods, mechanical. "Enjoy your flight." The scanner beeps green this time, but the sound feels hollow. As Amara walks through, the crowd behind exhales. Relieved it's over, though no one speaks. The narration settles softly. The world didn't shout today. It just looked away. And that was enough to hurt. Amara takes her seat. The sky outside looks wide and empty, but inside, every glance feels like a quiet denial. The jet bridge hums with recycled air and unspoken judgment. Amara steps forward, heels clicking softly against the metal floor. Every sound feels amplified, every stare deliberate. Behind her, the man who once sighed in line avoids her completely, pretending to scroll through his phone. The old woman beside him fumbles with her purse, the coins clinking like small excuses. A flight attendant greets each passenger with a rehearsed smile. When Amara reaches her, that smile falters, just slightly, before returning, tight and thin. "Welcome aboard," she says, voice measured. "Thank you," Amara replies, steady. As she walks past, the narration drifts like a whisper. They don't have to say it anymore. Their silence does the work. A man in a suit adjusts his tie as she passes. His wife leans toward him, murmurs something low. Amara catches the words. Maybe she's in the wrong cabin. Her jaw tightens, but her eyes stay calm. She sets her bag in the overhead compartment, her movements precise, almost ceremonial. The attendant watches from a distance, pretending to check seat numbers. Her hands fidget. Somewhere between duty and doubt, they all choose comfort. Amara sits by the window, straight-backed, composed. Outside, the morning sky gleams against the metal wing, free, endless. Inside, the air feels smaller. A child across the aisle looks at her curiously. His mother turns him away. The narration softens. One gaze learns. One turns away. That's how the cycle stays alive. Amara exhales slowly, eyes fixed on the sky. She whispers, barely audible, "Let them watch." The engines start to rumble, drowning out every unspoken word, except the quiet dignity sitting in seat 4A. The cabin vibrates softly as the engines come alive, a low hum filling the silence between strangers. Clara walks down the aisle, her steps forced steady, face composed. She gives half smiles, quick nods, avoiding the window seat in row 4, the one that holds the woman her authority tried to shrink. Amara sits quietly, hands folded, gaze on the clouds waiting just beyond the glass. The intercom clicks, a breath of static. Then a voice, calm, grounded, unmistakable. "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain, Captain Lewis speaking." Every head lifts. Clara stops mid-step. The smile fades before she can catch it. Her throat tightens as recognition hits. That last name, that tone. She looks toward Amara, who doesn't move, doesn't gloat. She simply looks out the window, as if hearing her father's echo in the clouds. The silence grows heavier than turbulence. Clara's hand trembles slightly as she adjusts a passenger's seatbelt. "Captain Lewis," the passenger whispers. "Is that her?" Clara nods faintly, her lips parting, but no sound follows. Over the speakers, the captain continues, warm but firm. "We're expecting clear skies today. Thank you for choosing to fly with us." A pause. Gentle, deliberate. "And remember, every passenger deserves the same sky." The words hang in the air like a verdict. Amara finally turns her head, her eyes meeting Clara's for just a second. No anger, just quiet truth. Clara swallows, eyes glistening. Around her, the passengers shift, some nodding, some whispering. The engines roar louder, but the message has already landed. Justice, it seems. Doesn't need volume, only altitude. The boardroom gleams, glass walls, polished shoes, and air thick with corporate perfume. Amara sits at the far end of the table, hands folded over a folder of data, her data, graphs and blueprints that would make flight safer, more efficient. Across from her, Mr. Donovan clears his throat. "Impressive work, team," he says smoothly, his eyes never meeting hers. "This proposal could redefine passenger safety." A pause. Then he adds, almost casually, "And of course, a special thanks to Mr. Hughes for leading the initiative." The room nods. Applause. Polite, empty applause. Amara's name isn't spoken. Her stomach tightens, but her face doesn't flinch. She's been here before. Brilliance without ownership. Hughes smiles, adjusts his tie. "It was a collective effort," he says, voice dripping false modesty. His glance at Amara is brief, a warning, not gratitude. She forces a smile. "Yes," she replies softly. "Collective." The word lingers like smoke. The narration cuts in, quiet, almost whispering. Every time they erased her, they called it teamwork. Mr. Donovan slides a contract toward her. "We'd like your signature to finalize the transfer." Standard procedure. Her pen hovers over the line. The letters blur for a moment. She signs, slow, deliberate, each stroke like a wound closing. "Thank you, Ms. Lewis," Donovan says. "You've been a great asset." Amara looks up. "Assets can be replaced, Mr. Donovan, but names last longer than signatures." The room stills. No one moves. She gathers her folder, the only copy with her name still on it, and stands. As she walks out, the sound of the door clicking shut feels final. History rewrote her brilliance in white ink, but she left the truth in silence, waiting for the right sky to hear her name again. The first jolt was small, a tremor that made cups rattle. Then the plane dipped. Oxygen masks swung like judgment. Clara's voice cracked through the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated." Her words broke when the aircraft lurched again. Someone screamed. A baby started crying. In the aisle, Amara pressed her palm against the seat in front of her, eyes fixed on the window. She'd felt this before, not the turbulence, but the loss of control. Across the cabin, Clara stumbled, clutching a tray that crashed to the floor. Metal, coffee, and fear scattered together. "Ma'am, sit down!" she shouted at a passenger standing to reach the overhead bin. Her tone was sharp, a mask for panic. Then through the noise, Amara's voice rose, soft, steady. "Breathe. Everyone just breathe." It wasn't loud, but it carried. The crying slowed. Heads turned. Clara froze. That voice. The same one she'd silenced months ago. Amara unbuckled slowly, helping an elderly man who was shaking too hard to move. "It's okay. Keep your feet flat. Ride with it, not against it." The pilot's voice cracked through static. "Flight attendants, please secure." But the calm was already spreading. Not from the cockpit, from row 12. Clara's eyes met Amara's across the cabin. No words, just the tremor of shame stronger than the turbulence. The plane steadied. Passengers exhaled together, a single, trembling breath of relief. And in that hush, Amara sat back down, hands folded. Face calm. The flight had shaken everyone, except her. Inside that silence, power shifted, quietly and permanently. The printer hummed in the quiet office, paper sliding out like evidence that had waited too long to speak. Amara stood by the window, the city lights below her blinking like restless memories. Clara entered slowly, not in uniform this time, just a woman stripped of title and noise. "You found it all?" Clara's voice was barely there. Amara didn't look up. "Found enough." She tapped the stack of files on the desk. Complaint forms, internal memos, investigations stamped, resolved, no action taken. Clara reached for one, her hand trembling. "They said it was protocol." They said a lot of things. Amara's tone stayed calm, almost too calm. "They called truth a disruption." A silence stretched. The hum of the printer stopped. Clara's eyes scanned a page. "I signed some of these." "I know." Clara sat down, the weight of it all folding her shoulders. "I didn't understand back then." Amara finally turned. "You didn't want to." There was no anger, only exhaustion, the kind that comes after years of being unheard. Across the desk, a monitor flickered. Security footage, grainy and damning. The faces of attendants who'd been written off. The moments erased in the name of reputation, Clara whispered. "They'll bury this again." "Not this time," Amara said, sliding a USB drive across the table. "I made sure of it." The sound of the drive clicking into place filled the room. Outside, thunder rolled, distant, deliberate. Clara swallowed hard. "What happens when it all comes out?" Amara glanced at her reflection in the glass. "Then maybe..." The sky finally clears. The computer screen lit her face, half shadow, half defiance. The system had trembled, and this time, she didn't. The announcement barely ended when a flight attendant leaned toward Clara, whispering just loud enough, "That woman's on the board now." The words landed heavier than the turbulence outside. Clara blinked, gripping the cup too tight, coffee spilling onto her hand. She hissed, more from shock than burn. "You're joking." The attendant shook her head. "No, ma'am. They said she's reviewing internal ethics cases herself." Clara's lips parted, but no sound came. Only the hum of the engines filled the silence. Inside, something small and cold began to move. Not guilt, not remorse, fear. The kind that doesn't announce itself, just starts rearranging your breath. "She's back?" Clara's voice cracked. "Seems like it." Clara forced a smile, shaky and artificial, before turning toward the cabin. Passengers chatted softly, unaware. Her reflection in the mirror above the drink cart caught her. Calm face, trembling hands. The attendant hesitated. "You knew her, right?" Clara's jaw tightened. "We worked together. Worked." The word echoed. "Not stole from, not silenced. Just worked." A pause lingered too long. "People say she's different now," the attendant added. Clara nodded once. "She always was." For a second, the aircraft dipped, mild turbulence, but Clara's chest rose faster, uneven. The fear wasn't about Amara's return. It was about what her presence meant, that truth had found wings again. She stared down the aisle where calm faces sat beneath flickering seatbelt lights. For the first time, Clara felt the altitude closing in, air thinning. The intercom crackled. A male voice asked for calm. Clara steadied herself against the counter, whispering under her breath, "She's watching." From above now, the engines roared again. But this time, the noise sounded like judgment. The press room was too bright. Rows of flashing cameras, questions loaded like bullets. Yet in the center, Amara sat still, hands folded. Her calm felt heavier than the noise around her. "Ms. Bennett," a reporter called, "are you confirming that the investigation files were intentionally hidden?" Amara met his eyes. They weren't hidden. They were erased. The room stilled. The sound of typing faltered for a breath. Another voice broke in. "Are you saying the company—" "I'm saying," she interrupted gently, "that when a black woman reports misconduct, it's called a misunderstanding. When she designs the solution, it's called teamwork. And when she leaves, it's called improvement." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It testified. Behind her, Clara stood near the doorway, pale and rigid. She hadn't been summoned, but she came anyway. Maybe curiosity, maybe guilt. A reporter noticed her. "Isn't that Clara Hayes? Former crew lead?" Clara froze. Amara's eyes flicked toward her, brief, unreadable. "Yes," Amara said softly. She was there too. All eyes turned. The cameras clicked faster, like a storm closing in. Clara's mouth opened. We didn't mean—" Amara raised a hand, stopping her. "You don't have to explain. The system already did that for you." A low murmur spread through the room. Reporters scribbled. Some leaned closer. But Amara's gaze didn't waver. "This isn't revenge," she said quietly. "It's record-keeping." The words landed harder than any accusation could. Clara's lip trembled. "You're destroying everything." "No," Amara whispered. "I'm just telling the part you skipped." The flashes burst again, white light swallowing faces. Yet through it, Amara's calm stood unbroken, not to wound, but to witness. And for the first time, silence spoke louder than power. The room had emptied halfway. Reporters murmured outside glass doors. Inside, only the echoes of camera clicks lingered, faint, like ghosts refusing to leave. Clara sat at the far end of the table, her palms trembling beneath folded arms. "Do you ever feel it?" she asked quietly. "When people look at you and you know they've already decided what you are?" Amara didn't turn. "Every day," she replied, her voice steady, almost kind. "But I learned not to let their decision become mine." Clara's throat tightened. I didn't mean to be part of that." "You didn't mean to stop it either," Amara said. The words landed soft, but they broke something inside the silence. Clara's breath hitched. She looked down, blinking hard. I thought if I stayed quiet, I'd keep my job." "And did you?" Amara asked, a long pause. Clara shook her head slowly. "No, I just lost myself first." The narration sank beneath their words. Guilt wasn't loud. It came softly, like a heartbeat trying to apologize. Clara's eyes lifted, glistening under sterile light. "You could destroy me right now. One word from you?" Amara turned, finally, her expression unreadable. "That's not justice. That's noise." The quiet stretched again. Clara's chest rose shallowly. She opened her mouth, then stopped, the kind of hesitation that knows it's too late. Outside, someone began clapping. Just one pair of hands at first, then another. Slow, uncertain. Not for Amara, not for Clara, but for truth itself. Standing quietly between them, Clara flinched at the sound, each clap like a pulse of consequence. Amara exhaled, almost whispering, "Some lessons don't echo. They just stay." And the room, at last, stopped breathing. The terminal was quieter than usual, that kind of quiet that follows after a storm. Clara folded her uniform slowly, the stiff fabric brushing against her trembling hands. Around her, lockers slammed shut, footsteps hurried away. No one met her eyes. "Guess you made the news," a voice muttered from behind. Not mocking, just distant. Clara didn't turn. "I didn't mean for it to end like this." "Doesn't matter what you meant," the voice replied. "It's what you did." The door clicked shut, leaving her alone with the echo. She stared at the small badge in her hand, the one that once meant belonging. Now it only weighed like truth. For the first time, she noticed how cold it felt. Across town, Amara moved through the same terminal, unnoticed among the morning rush. No cameras, no applause, just faces, tired travelers, workers in crisp uniforms, someone holding a child's hand. She smiled faintly. A young attendant passed her, nervous and polite. "Good morning, ma'am," Amara nodded. "It is." The narration lingered. This was what victory looked like when stripped of noise. Not revenge, not triumph, just presence. In a corner cafe, Clara sat by the window, still in civilian clothes. She looked up as Amara walked past outside. For a second, their eyes met, a quiet, wordless recognition. Clara's lips parted, as if to call out, but she didn't. Amara gave a small nod, nothing more, and kept walking. Clara exhaled. The sound trembled. Not from fear this time, from release. The world didn't stop. Flights departed. Announcements echoed. Life moved on. But somewhere in that motion, change began. Quiet, unnoticed, but permanent. Amara sat by the window, the soft hum of airplanes filling the silence. Her phone screen glowed, a black and white photo of her father standing beside a plane he never got to fly. His smile was proud, but his eyes carried the weight of doors closed too soon. She brushed her thumb across the screen, whispering, "You would have loved this view, Papa." Outside, clouds drifted lazily, the same sky that had once denied him. The same sky now whispering his name through her quiet victories. Her friend Malik leaned against the frame. "You still looking at that photo?" Amara nodded. "He trained harder than anyone. But they said the world wasn't ready for a black pilot." Malik's voice softened. "And now his daughter made them look up." She smiled faintly. "Maybe, but I don't want applause anymore. I just want fairness to stop feeling like charity." Across town, Clara folded paper planes with children at the community center. A little boy tugged her sleeve. "Miss Clara, why do airplanes fly?" She hesitated. "Because they're meant to go higher than they're told." The boy grinned, launching his paper plane into the air. Clara watched it glide, her eyes wet. An older woman beside her murmured, "You're good with them. You could have left, you know." Clara shook her head. "I used to think silence made things go away. Now I know it only keeps you from seeing who you've hurt." Amara stepped outside, gazing at the sky that mirrored her father's memory. Somewhere above, a plane cut through the clouds, and for once the sky didn't look empty. It looked like it remembered. Justice didn't shout anymore. It simply stayed.